Alright, welcome everyone to another one of my ZBrush tutorials. I'm Ron, or Ron's Media Matrix of Freedomizer Radio, and besides in my spare time I like to do these tutorials. So the tutorial today will be on how to make a flathead screwdriver, and we're going to make that screwdriver. We're going to give it a kind of a yellow clear plastic handle with the grooved or gear shape on it, and the black paint, and we're also going to add a stencil. So I'm going to get started here, and I'm going to go ahead and run my my script for the 1800 by 1200 image size, which you can print out at 300 dpi. So we're going to go to our scripts here, and we have our postcard size, and so we go down, we press our play button, we say skip initialization. And so voila, we have a 1800 by 1200 postcard size canvas, and we can check that here. So we got 1800 by 1200 pixels. So to start off, we're gonna hit Control N and have a clear canvas, and I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna start with the screwdriver, the metal part of the screwdriver blade first, and then we'll move on to the handle where we get a little fancy. And as of course, this is going to be subtools. So we're going to have two subtools. We're going to have the screwdriver handle, and we're going to have the screwdriver, the main screwdriver part. So we start off by dragging a cylinder 3D to the canvas, hitting Edit, which is also T on your keyboard for the keyboard shortcut, and we're going to go ahead and make this a this is a polyframe, which you can see here. This is a polyframe object. We're going to commit this to a poly mesh, and so we go up here and we make poly mesh 3D tool. So now we've got a poly mesh, and I want to add some make this mesh fairly dense, so we can have a little bit of more convincing look and less pixelizations in our final product. So I just got through doing my radio show and having something to eat here. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and do some deformations to start off. I want to make this kind of we want to make it long. So we're going to size it up in the y-axis. I'm going to get it on up there. Then we can back up. And as always, you can hit F if you want to fill the screen. You can do that. Now I want to make it a little bit narrower, or a little thinner in the X and Y. And we're going to go in here and we're going to do this numerically. We're going to decrease 50 by 50 on the X, and then we're going to go to the Y, and we're going to decrease by 50. So we're going to get a little thinner. We're just going to do it like this, and then go to our Y. Well, actually, we'll back up there. We'll do it by X and Y, because we want to get it kind of narrow. So we just do the X and Y, and we'll turn off the X and Y, and we'll add a little additional length to it. This will be the metal part, the actual blade of the screwdriver. So we've got our blade established, and I think I will go ahead and fill it with my material I want to use here. I want to use something kind of bright, as most screwdrivers are kind of shiny. So we're going to use this matte cap metal 2 for our base material, and of course you want to add that, you want to fill that object with your material. So what I want to do first off, we want to make the blade on the end. So we're going to zoom in a little bit here, and what I want to do is we'll go ahead and add some geometry to get it up to density. before we start doing our sculpting here. We're going to get this up to around 5 for starters. And as you see, because of the smooth, certified smooth modifier, now actually we can back up if you like, and we can turn it off to keep things, you know, the clean flat end on it. So we're going to try this. We're going to get it on up to about 5. So we got a nice dense mesh there. And what I want to do is I want to sculpt this the blade of the flat screwdriver. So what I did here is I held down the control key. I'm going to mask off about that much of the front end, and then we're going to go to a masking palette. I'm going to inverse that. So now we're just going to affect the end of this our screwdriver blade, which is going to be our blade. Looks like this is going to be quite a long screwdriver. So what I did here to flatten out the blade portion, we want to turn on our floor and see which dimensions we want to flatten out. And it looks like we want to flatten the Y and flatten the X portion, or size it as we do in a deformation tool. So we're going to go to size in the deformation palette. Yep. Now actually I just want to do the Y. We want to flatten out the Y axis. So that's going to flatten out the end of our screwdriver. We can take a closer look of how that's occurring. Actually, no, I've got to back up here. We want to blur this mask so we can get this gradual deformation. We're going to blur it pretty good there. Now we go back and we do our deformation, and we want to size the Y-axis. So by blurring the mask, we've got a gradual shift in the we got kind of a smooth gradual deformation there. Okay, so I want to flare this out a little bit, as a lot of screwdrivers the end is kind of flared out where the business end of the screwdriver is. So what you want to do is you want to back up here a little bit and you want to do the activate your symmetry along the x-axis. And we're going to go to the move tool so we can zoom in on this. We want to flare this out a little bit. So what I did earlier is I increased the draw size of our brush, and we're just going to pull this out a little bit. So now we got a nice little flare there. And so now we've got our blade, as you can see there. You can see our blade, and then kind of go in there close. So we got a nice little blade on there. We can look at the perspective and take a really close look at that. So we got a nice smooth transition there. So that's the end of your screwdriver. We'll take a look at it from this direction. So you can see it's flared out really nice there. Okay. So we're going to release that. We're going to clear that mask for now. And so there we go. We've got the business end of our flathead screwdriver established here. And we're going to turn it around, get it oriented. Hold down the shift key. Turn off the perspective momentarily. So there we have it. This is our screwdriver blade. So we'll go to the subtools and we rename this. We're going to call this Flathead Screwdriver Blade. And now we got our blade made. Now the second part I want to make is we want to make that handle. And of course, if you've seen the handles of as I you know, I just recall from memory here that you always had those handles, especially the Stanley screwdrivers. They were made of a kind of a clear yellow plastic material. So we've got our next tool we're going to make here And we're going to go ahead and add our material. Make sure we turn on the MRGB. We're going to pick the gel shader B here. And we're going to move over into the yellow area. We want to get that nice bright yellow color. And something I didn't do earlier, well, I want to take care of now. I need to work on getting the transparency on these things. So before I fill this with our material, we're going to go up to our material modifiers, and we're going to get that transparency up to about, we'll say that's about 70%, 67. So eventually, when I figure out how to put another object in the scene, perhaps we can see, you could be able to see through this material. So anyway, we're going to commit this to a poly mesh, and we're going to fill it with our material, which is that nice yellow looking material there. Oh, I'm going to back up here. I'm going to go to Control Z. We're going to go back to the 3D because there's something really important I need to do here. We can still fill it with our material, but I forgot a step, which I used earlier. What we want to do, you can, while we have it as a poly frame, we can create an alpha, and that alpha we can put it in the menu over there, and then we can apply it to our poly frame, which is really important here. I forgot to do this, I apologize, but what we're going to do is we're going to mask the whole thing, and we're going to mask by column, and I'll show you that. That's not what I want exactly. So we're going to drag the selection down. We want something like this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to clear that. We're going to select 2, and then we're going to mask by column. Of course, you have to mask all, then mask by column. Now, that's what I want. We want to mask like that. So we're still in the polyframe mode here. We haven't committed to a poly mesh. What you need to do here is really important. You create alpha, and so you can see the alpha shows up over here in your left-hand menu. That's the alpha you're going to use when you commit this to a polyframe or poly mesh. So you can clear that mask for now. And now what we do, we can commit our tool, our base polygon here, our polyframe, and we're going to make sure to fill it with the material. So it shows up over here that's filled. We've got an alpha created. Now the next step is we want to add some geometry to this poly mesh that we created. So we're going to just go ahead here and we're going to get up to about 5, make it fairly dense. We have a nice smooth handle here. And then what I want to do is I want to lengthen it a little bit. So we go to the deformation. We want only size bind it along the x-axis. So we're going to get this thing so about yay long. So okay. Now what I want to do before I apply this alpha for my other details, I want to add one more little detail. And some of the handles on screwdrivers, they kind of have a waist on it. It kind of narrows down. So I put this mask here, and then I inverse it, and then I blur it a little bit. And what I want to do is I want to shrink it down and kind of give it a waist around the handle. So we go to our deformation, and we only want to deform the x and the y-axis of the size, which we can go here. And you see there it squeezes down and gives us that little waist you see on some of the tools there. So we got that. So now we can clear this mask. So now here comes the important part. We want to apply this mask and add a little further more details, but there's a couple more things I want to do before we do that. So what you do is you go down in the mask, and if you press this button, it will apply this mask over here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we got this segmented gear shaped type mask. But one of the things is we don't want this mask to go to the ends of the handle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to inverse the mask right at the ends, and you hold down the Control and Alt, and what you can do is you can do this, and so the mask won't be on the end. And we want to do this for the other end. Whoops, wrong command. Control Alt, and we want to clear that mask. So now where you see these black stripes is the only place you won't see the deformity right at the ends, but it will be on the rest of the handle. So what we're going to do, we're going to blur these a little bit, like so, and then we're going to do the deformation in the X and Y axis. So there you go. So you get that. Now you see the shape I'm talking about here, that grip, they do so on the tools. So we got that. Now once again, we want to make sure our object's filled, because we're going to add the black finish to the ridges that stick out here. So what we do is we make sure that we got our initial color, the yellow, clear yellow. We fill it, and now what we do, we inverse our mask, and we're going to choose another material here. We're going to choose toy plastic, but we're going to switch to black. So then we go up here and we fill the object. And so if I did this correctly, let's see, voila. So we got our clear plastic, and we got that shiny black finish on the ridges there that give you the grip to the screwdriver. So we've got that. Now what we got to do is we got to connect these two parts. So we previously made the subtool, well, it's a subtool now. We're going to rename this to Flathead Screwdriver Handle. Alright, now we need to append the previous tool we made, which is our blade. You're going to append it there. Now I've got this about right size. So all we got to do is we've got to do some scaling on the blade itself. So we select the blade, the flathead screwdriver blade in the subtools, and we're going to scale that along all three axes, the X, the Y, and the Z. And we might do some additional lengthening, but it looks like that looks about right. Okay. So what we need to do is offset it, and so we need to offset it in the Z direction. So we're going to go to our offset here, turn off the X, turn on the Z. So we're just going to drag this over, and might have to drag it a couple of times, and we want to get a pretty good bit out there. And it looks about right. Let's do it a little bit more. Okay, so we got that. We got that part. Now we might still want to size up the blade portion just a hair. There we go. So we got a nice, well, that's a pretty long screwdriver. So we got our screwdriver pretty much assembled there. And actually in the subtools, if you want to see how far back the blade is, you can turn on the transparency. So you can see where I got our blade pretty far back. And I guess if I was building a screwdriver, I'd want about that amount to kind of balance out, maybe help the torque on it a little bit. So anyway, you can look and you can see just how far back our blade is inside the handle. So we're going to turn that off. Now I want to do one more thing here. As you notice, if you've ever seen in the older tools, they'll usually have the name of the manufacturer embossed right there on one of those grips. So as I always say, if you want to get technical in ZBrush, you definitely can. And we're going to, I've got a stencil that I've already prepared that just says Flathead Screwdriver. And what we're going to do is we're going to emboss and color those words right along this black grip here. So I see I still have my symmetry on. We don't need it for now. We're kind of done there. But we're going to add our stencil. And so I want to shut off the material. Go to RGB. We're going to go to white. We're going to Z add. I'm going to import our stencil, which I have previously made, and we have it in here, the Flathead Screwdriver stencil. There it is. It says PSD file. One of the important things here is you can use a JPEG or just as a native Photoshop document. So I got that. Now we've got our little stencil here. So we're going to turn on our stencil. And oh, okay. I've got to convert this to a stencil first. So we got to go to the alpha. We got to transfer it. But make it a stencil. Now, our stencil's on, and we need to inverse our stencil. I believe I have this right, like that. And we hold down the space key. We move it down to one of our black grips down there. We put the stencil in a wrap mode, and we scale. Gotta redo that. And move it down here. So now we're going to put those letters, and we want to use a different alpha here. We want to use white. We want RGB, and we want add. So we're going to go to our standard brush. The smooth tool doesn't do a good as job as a stenciling, and I prefer the freehand stroke. Yeah, just my preference. Okay. So we're going to go down here. We're going to hold down the Alt key because we want to emboss this. We don't want it too deep, so I'm going to slide back the Z intensity to about, I believe about 6 is what I used previously when I was, we got to make sure we have the wrap mode on. We got the wrap mode on. So we hold down our Alt to do a Z sub. And we have a RGB because we just want the color. We don't necessarily want the material. So okay. So here we go. Sometimes I have a little trouble. Now it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay. What am I doing wrong here? Not stenciling. Let's turn the stencil off, start over again. Maybe. Okay, we want to stencil that subtool. Okay. What I didn't have these proper subtools selected. I believe that was the problem. Okay, so here we go. Still not. Oh, there it goes. It's not doing exactly what I want to do. Okay. Having a little technical difficulties here. Pull our size back a little bit. Okay, the stencil is, we better add some more geometry here, because it seems like it takes about 6 or 7 to get a good clear stencil. So we're going to divide this up to 7. Now we should get a good clear impression on the stencil, and we're going to try to do our emboss. Well, the color is not picking up. Doggone it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. Oh, I see what it is. I got to switch the color over here. Now, And we're going to back up that intensity to do our embossing. About 6. So that should do it. And there we go. We got the white color in there. And as you can see, we turn off our stencil. And there you go. It renders out pretty good. So there you go. You got your normally it would be Stanley or Loctite or something like that, but for all practical purposes we have our Flathead Screwdriver. And we can zoom out there. We'll turn off the floor, turn on our perspective, and we'll render this out. And there you go. That's how you make a Flathead Screwdriver in ZBrush. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be coming up with some additional tutorials in the future, and so make sure you stay tuned here as we go to the final render. Smooth normals. We want some detail on our subtools. So RGB. We want more anti-aliasing, the better. And so we hit our BPR button, and there you go. There's your Flathead Screwdriver. Thanks so much for watching, and look forward to some more tutorials in the future. So this is Ronald Hicks with Freedomizer Radio and your ZBrush tutorial artist. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.